Great. We're recording. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. This is a very special Bible Hangout. I have my friend Lola Wright, the Reverend Lola Wright from Bodhi Spiritual Center in Chicago. And this year, we're doing something different with the Bible Hangout. We are taking time to apply the information that we have been studying. So for the first 4 weeks, or the last 4 weeks, we have been working with Emmett Fox's The Mental Equivalent. Okay, where have I been? We've been working with Emmett Fox's The Mental Equivalent, and we've been going through the material. And so now what we're going to do is slow down, and we're going to focus on applying the material. So tonight is all about creating the mindset, the right mindset for a breakthrough. We're using part 1 of Emmett Fox's Mental Equivalent. That's the backdrop for our conversation. I've already prepped over Lola. I am open to wherever Spirit takes us because I know that there is something amazing that Spirit has in store for us. And so I'm here for it. But before we get started, we do everything with the Bible Hangout with prayer. And so if you would just center yourself and just take a deep cleansing breath. One more time, deep cleansing breath. And one more time for the subconscious mind, deep cleansing breath. Father, Mother God, we are open tonight for what you want to do through this gathering of like minds. We are here for our breakthrough. We know that something said, something shared, something exchanged is going to be the thing that we need in order to tip over into the next dimension of our experience. And so we just open our hearts and our minds that this information may come in through us. Each one of us is an inlet and an outlet for you. And so we just ask that what you send into us, that we give back in a way that is beneficial for our fellow person. We bless each person present here this evening. We bless everyone watching this recording after it is finished. And we thank you for every breakthrough that has had through this experience. In the name and the nature of the one that is called the Christ, the absolute good spirit of I am, I say amen. And so it is. All right, let's go. All right, so let me introduce you to Reverend Lola Wright, and I'm going to just read a portion of her bio, and she's amazing. She is a minister, a leader, speaker, and a coach. She is currently the spiritual director for Bodhi Spiritual Center in Chicago, Illinois, and this is a global center for consciousness that is located in the Windy City. They administer classes, Sunday celebration services, classes, workshops, service opportunities, and special events. In her bio, it says, as a teenage mom, she was raised by hip hop. Lola navigated domestic abuse, addiction, and welfare. And in 1998, she had an unexpected encounter with the Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith of Agape International Spiritual Center. This detour in her trajectory recalibrated her orientation and her worldview and set her on a profound pursuit of ancient wisdom and new thought teachings. She ferociously studied science, religion, philosophy, race, culture, and music for nearly 20 years, alongside growing corporate success with leading global institutions. And in 2014, Lola was ordained as a religious science minister through Emerson Theological Institute and a licensed minister through the Centers for Spiritual Living. It is my pleasure and my honor to welcome Reverend Lola to the Bible Hangout. Hey!
Hey! Oh, what you all should know is that the first time I heard Sherri speak, the first time I sat in her midst, I was like, who is this human? And I texted my dear friend, Galen McDowell, and I'm like, you must know this woman, and I think she is my twin.
Yes. What I love about you is that you have a spirit of activism, and it's a marriage of that activism with spirituality. And something about that just resonates deep in my soul. And so I say that you are my sister from another mister. Because so many things that if I read your posts on Facebook, or if I see a sermon that you've given, or just something that you've written, it always touches me, and it always feels like something that I would say or something that would occur to me, and that just warms my heart. And so, can you tell me a little bit, because every superhero has a backstory, and so I want to know your superhero backstory. How did you get into? Tell me about that encounter with Reverend Michael Beckwith.
Yeah. Well, so I'll back up just a moment, and I want to also acknowledge my mom because she's on the call. So, hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah. So I was raised in a deeply spiritually curious household. My grandparents were social justice Catholics and deep Rumi meditators. My grandfather did work with Thich Nhat Hanh. So there was always sort of a pushing of the envelope. My grandparents retired to sacred land in New Mexico as part of like a preservation effort, and got really deep into the indigenous traditions in Cerrillos, New Mexico. So, there was just a lot of curiosity in my world. My mom was always pushing the envelope. I watched my uncle die of AIDS in the mid 80s, and I had a sense of my grandmother's friction with the church that stemmed, I think, largely out of that, also related to the church's exclusion of women. And so, it was just sort of all simmering. And in 1992, my parents went through a pretty public divorce, and a tribe called Quest came out with an album called Midnight Marauders, and those two things happened about the same time. And all of a sudden I found a really powerful outlet through music. And I always say that hip hop was really my first spiritual awakening, in the sense that it really was like a truth serum for me. And I, got access to Black liberation theology, and that just, I was 15, I read the autobiography of Assata Shakur, and it changed my world. And then when I realized that sort of traditional organized religion was problematic for me for a variety of reasons, specifically around social issues, women in leadership, the church's position on LGBTQ identified people, a woman's right to choose. Like, I have sort of a little short list. And I just started looking. At that point, I became a mom when I was 18, and I knew that I wanted community for my kids, but I knew that it couldn't look a traditional kind of way. And my feeling was, if all of my family was not welcome in a spot, then none of my family was going to be hanging out in a spot. And so I found my way to Unity, and Unity in Chicago. My beloved Reverend Ed Townley, and just such a dear human. And this is so funny. It was like I think it actually might have been like 1999, 2000. This group formed called Pioneers for the Possible. And it was Marianne Williamson, Michael Beckwith, Wayne Dyer. It was like a lot of heavy hitters, Bob Proctor and Mary Mann Morrissey. And they were launching an internet radio show. And they'd come to Unity in Chicago. And something told me that day, it's actually really perfect for tonight's conversation. I said to my mom, hey, we need to go to hear about this internet radio station. And I said, they're going to give away, because they were basically raising money. So you had to, it was $7,500 a year if you wanted to participate in this. Included in that would be a weekend intensive with these incredible leaders. And I said to my mom, we need to go to that. And as we walked in the door, I said, they were giving away one thing through a drawing. And I just was like, that's mine. It was like the clearest thing in me. I just knew, like, that is for me. And at the end of the afternoon, they pulled a name out of the hat. It was mine. And not long thereafter, I was on my way to Palm Springs and heard Michael Beckwith that first night. Had no idea who he was. I was 20 years old. And my mom was sitting next to me, and I just started weeping. And I was like, I don't know who this man is, and I don't know what he is up there doing, but I know that I'm here for that. And I had to walk away from my mom. It was such a profoundly intimate experience that I felt very exposed. And I said in that evening to myself, I will do what that man is doing. It took a long time after that for that to come to fruition. And I denied it many times thereafter, but here we sit.
I love it. So you were encountering Michael Beckwith in Chicago in 1998. I was encountering Mary Pumpkin. And so because I was looking at your path, because you finished in 2014 and I finished in 2013. So kind of like, I'm telling you, you're my sister from another mister. So 1998 Chicago, I was at our Panorama of Truth, July 1998. And I was there. I like newly minted in Alpha Kappa Alphas. I was there for like the boule and the POT. Oh, it was going to be on. And I was coming to hear Reverend Johnny because she was who I knew and she was who I was excited. I'd never heard of Reverend Mary. And I was sitting in the Hyatt Regency off of Lakeshore Drive. The shops on Michigan Avenue. Is that what over? On Michigan Avenue. It's sitting in that Hyatt Regency. And the boule was going to be happening at down at the McCormick Center. And so, so I was like, okay, well, I'll finish the conference and then I'll head over to boule because, and I'll get to hear Johnny preach and then segue right into boule. Girl, they got up and they said, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman will be speaking before the Alpha Kappa Alpha convention. And I almost passed out because it was too late. Like there was no way to get up and leave because that's what I wanted to do. Walk right out of the convention center and head down to McCormick Center. And then they said, the Reverend Mary Ann Tumpkin will be delivering the sermon today. And I was like, I don't know, Mary. And I'm heated, like just. And I tell you, that woman got up and opened her mouth, and I have never been the same. I didn't even know I loved the Bible until I heard her. I didn't even have an idea. She influenced me so much just in terms of my spirituality and my walk and where I was going. And so I became a Reverend Mary groupie. So wherever she was, I was. Period. Like full stop. So I love that we're kind of walking similar paths. I just appreciate that.
Well, you have served her legacy well because when I hear you break down the Bible, I'm like, wow. Actually, when Sherri invited me on tonight, I was like, I'm a little intimidated because I'm not sharp on the Bible like you Johnny Coleman folks. Like I am intimidated. And so I defer to you.
No. Do not be. This is, the Bible is such a personal experience. And we've been given a lens to look at the Bible through. And it's so hard to take that lens down because we were given that lens when we were 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And, up until age 7, you're all subconscious mind. So you have no filter. Everything that you're given, it's taking it in, filing it in. The mind at that point doesn't consciously necessarily know to say no to some things and yes to other things. And we were given our spirituality at that age, and then everything else evolved. Our bodies evolved, our minds evolved, but our spirituality or our concepts of spirituality just kind of stayed the same and stayed in this one little package. So this is a personal experience, and that's why I want to draw from your well. I want to draw from your mind. One of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is creating the right mindset for a breakthrough. And both of us have experiences in our own lives in terms of our work, in terms of just coming into ministry. And it's why we are one of the reasons that we're out sharing with other people, because we found a teaching that includes all people. Like how random is that? I know growing up that there were ministries that I know that friends of mine couldn't be in. One of my very best friends in high school is gay, and I know that there were churches that if I went to in Houston where I grew up, he couldn't come to that church.
Yeah.
You know, or he couldn't come to that church as he is. And something about that never felt right to me.
Mm-hmm.
It never felt true.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I'm getting off on the topic here, but in terms of just creating that mindset for a breakthrough, I feel like that each of us in our own way have found a spiritual path that is inclusive of all people, but then also allows you to go and give your very best. Can you talk about just a little bit about like what it means to you to like break through? Like, let's at least define what that is so that we're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my great practices is to just notice my set points, to be aware of what I have determined as my norm, and then to get curious around what more could be possible. Not because more is better, but because there is an evolutionary impulse in my being that's always expanding and growing. It's dynamic. And so for me, a breakthrough is busting through what I thought was possible into a new realm. And to me, that's the very nature of life. You know, of course, it's like it's not to be dissatisfied all the time, but it's to be curious, to live in a state of wonder, to, you know, walk with expectancy and imagine what else could be possible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, one of the things, and what you said that resonated with me is this idea of something greater being available, right? Mm-hmm. Something possible. And I always think that, you know, nothing grows down. Like if it's growing down, it's dying. Mm. Trees grow up. Flowers grow up. Puppies become dogs. Dogs do not become puppies. And so this principle of growth it just repeats across all of creation. Mm-hmm. So in that, along with what you're saying, I feel like it's what we call success. And I think sometimes we get it wrong, maybe because of our ego or how we're oriented, but we're meant to have success. Mm-hmm. It's the nature of how a tree is unsuccessful if it doesn't grow to the fullest stature that it can grow. A puppy is unsuccessful if it does not become a dog. Mm-hmm. If a puppy stays a puppy, that's a problem.
We have all dated some puppies. It didn't go well.
Yes. Got it. Yes. So we're talking about the mental equivalent, and the question I have for you is, what is a mental equivalent? How do you define a mental equivalent?
For me, it is that which I can hold in my mind's eye and then feel on a sensory level. You know, like I think that a lot of times, you know, I love the practice of affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment that comes out of the science of mind tradition. Mm-hmm. And when I teach that practice, you know, there can be a lot of emphasis on getting the words right. But if you get the words right and you do not have the felt sense of that which you desire, it is for naught. And so for me, a mental equivalent is really like, literally, I visualize my third eye. I see and sense the thing that I desire before me, and I integrate it to the best of my ability into my cellular memory. And then it's really, I'm like, I was thinking about this earlier today. Now, please know that I am a deeper human than what I'm about to tell you right now. But one of my great desires is a black on black Range Rover. And I know, I mean, there are many more.
Even things got to get from one place to another. Okay.
Right. So, you know, I literally for a decade, now you might be like, well, geez, why are you so slow? You know, why is your demonstration taking so long? It's process. And one of my qualifiers is I really would like it to be fuel efficient. So we might have to wait till it's electric. But I literally, when I walk out my back door and I walk to my garage, I just bring to my mind's eye the experience of approaching this black on black Range Rover. And that's like a very vivid thing, right? But I did that when I manifested my husband. I just walked in a consciousness of I am in loving and intimate partnership with my best friend and husband. I am in loving and intimate spiritual partnership with my best friend and husband. And I just would see the essence of that one before me. I had no idea what he would look like. He turned out being completely different from anything I had ever expected. But the felt sense before me was there.
Yes. So it's something I want to touch on because when you said about I'm deeper than this, and I think that's a challenge. Like, is that if I want these things, then somehow I'm not spiritual. And even in New Thought, we got some powerful prosperity teachers who really demonstrate and really prove these principles in their lives. But I think we all still struggle on some level with this mental equivalent that somehow these things, I don't want to say the word wrong, but that wanting that is not as important as wanting well-being for all people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I definitely do know that that's a constant reconciliation in my own being. I think part of my sensitivity is sometimes I feel like in the New Thought movement, there's such an emphasis on the goodies that it would serve people to actually mature beyond the acquisition of things into a higher idea of what's possible. And what's true is that as much as of my life is oriented around social issues, because that to me is like, I mean, I really believe that you get yourself together such that you may be a contribution on the planet. I believe fundamentally that's what we're here for. And I do still desire the black on black Range Rover. So, for me, I'm always unraveling the part of me that lives in an either or paradigm. Either I can have the, well-being of all humans, or I can have the black on black Range Rover. I mean, because I spent so many years in corporate America, I really have resisted interacting with corporate America ever again. Like I have been untangling a judgment that I've had. And, because I've done a lot of modalities, the recommendation has been like, Lola, you should be doing this in the corporate setting. Well, why aren't you taking this there? And I was like, nope. and it was sort of a subtext, like, I don't want to work for the man. I'm not doing it. And my husband would be like, well, but please, would you consider it for just a moment, And it's interesting as I have unpacked that one in me. And honestly, it took the anxiety of 2 college-age children that I'm the mother of, navigating the future of student loans, for me to get out of my righteousness and my nobility around taking this into corporate environments, for me to have a shift in that. And once I had a shift in that story that was running me, a mental equivalent became possible. All of a sudden, I became a resonant match for the opportunity. And literally, I said to my husband, I said, the thought of sitting on LinkedIn and just starting to prospect people, it sounds awful. And he said to me, what if it didn't have to be that difficult? What if you could actually hold in your mind's eye the possibility that opportunity could come your way, such that you organized yourself to be a match for that, and stuff showed up? And literally within like a 10-day period, 2 incredible opportunities presented themselves. And I'm just knowing that, like, okay, great, I'm open and available to more of that.
That's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. So a couple things. One is when you said that, you made me think of the story of Jonah. And the thing about Jonah, so everybody knows Jonah and the whale. Actually, the scripture says a big fish. But what was happening with Jonah is that he was being called to go and take the word into Nineveh. And Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. And so just to give kind of a context, So Assyria is the great superpower of the day. They are, and you know them by the way that they capture. So they would come in and they would completely destroy. So the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Israel, so Israel and Judah. The reason that we have the 10 lost tribes of Israel is because what happened with Assyria is that they came in and they took all the residents, or the majority of the residents of Israel, the northern kingdom, the 10 northern tribes, and resettled them elsewhere. And so essentially they're lost to the pages of history. There's no record of them. And so they essentially destroy Israel. Most of what we have in our Bible comes out of the southern kingdom, comes out of those writers that decided to become the people of the book when they were in the Babylonian captivity. So what's happening with Jonah is you've gotten the word from God. Go take what you learned and go give it to the people of Nineveh. And he's like, nope. I'm not going to work for the man. I'm sorry, not going to happen. No. And so in order to escape, he runs and jumps in a boat and sets sail. And then there's all this turbulence, and the people on the boat are freaking out. He's like, you know what, guys, it's me. And just throw me over. And he's thrown over, and he's swallowed up by a big fish. And he spends 3 days or periods, whatever sessions, if you will, in the belly of the big fish. And when he gets out, he finally goes and shares what he has learned and what God gave him with the people of Nineveh. So that's a story that you made me think of, because I do have that feeling. It's, what if God calls you, meaning that you feel it in your soul, it's a burning need, and I must do it, not like you're an audible voice. A burning need, and I must do it, and I've got to go take this message to the very people who would seek to harm me. Because that's what Moses had to do. Moses got, I know everybody thinks Bush was talking. Reverend Mary to say, I'm so glad that the 3 pigs were not in the Bible. Okay. But he has this idea of social justice and what's right. And it gets in him to such a deep level that he can no longer be silent about it. Mm-hmm. And then he's willing to risk death and come out of hiding in the Midian desert in order to act on what is happening in his heart. So anyway, all right.
I actually see, this is why Sherri James needs to have the Bible Hangout, because who is going to be the keeper of this great wisdom?
Right. And and I have this thing that this training landed in our laps, right? And I saw I don't think it was you, but somebody posted about the average age of Sherri Jameson from Unity. The average age of ministers in our movement.
Oh, don't get me started, Sherri James.
So listen, guys, maybe there's like 3, 4 folk in their 20s and 30s, but most people are in their 60s. And the question, most people are in their 60s. Like there's a handful in their 40s, and then there's another handful in their 50s, but most people are over the age of 60. Here's the thing. Is this going to die out on our watch? If you think about it, that it travels through time, travels through Socrates, travels through Aristotle, comes down through all of the teachers in the Enlightenment, through the Transcendentalists, through Mary Baker Eddy, through Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes and Johnny Coleman and Mary Tompkins, and then it gets to us and we can't go get no young people? Anyway, all right, we way off track, but I knew.
Well, Oprah picked up that mantle.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's the thing that I had. Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't agree that the Joel Osteens of the world or Oprahs of the world are necessarily teaching what we're teaching.
I totally agree, but they've figured out how to be attractive to a mass audience in a way that the New Thought movement has been unwilling to be self-reflective, to be accessible to people in today's time.
So that's the mental equivalent we need to break.
Yeah. It's very, Well, I don't want to take us down now.
No. I think that this is important. We might need to detour just a little bit because, again, this is about a breakthrough.
Right.
I was going to use Bible scenarios for our breakout in a small group, but maybe we need to just deal with this.
Right.
Which is how do we take this message out? Because let me back up. Let me tell you what's different about what we do versus what, say, Oprah or somebody else does. At the core of our teaching is that humanity is fundamentally good. That's at the core. There from whomever is the person that you think is rotten to the core, evil, lying every day, upsetting the balance of the world, all of that. Even that person is the essence of their being is absolute good. That's one thing. The second thing is that there is no evil. There is no. And so Reverend Mary used to say, listen, in an absolute God, if God is all, who got the rest? Like, there's nothing in opposition to the one power and the one presence. And so I think you have to deal with the appearance of evil, but that doesn't mean that evil has a consciousness that exists independent of somebody saying yes to. Mm-hmm. So in order for evil to express, somebody has to say, yep, I'm here, send me, I'll go out and commit whatever act, right? And so I don't, at least anything that I have heard, I certainly haven't heard a Joel Osteen or a Creflo Dollar or anybody else teaching what we teach. I've heard them using parts of what we teach. I've heard them pick up the success message, but I certainly haven't heard them pick up the God is all there is message. And so I think that it is imperative that we continue. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is it going to die out on our watch?
I think, I'm involved in a body of work out of Harvard Divinity School that's been exploring emerging community platforms among millennials and younger. And Bodhi was selected as a community out of 50 organizations in their inaugural year that was attractive to millennials. And I think the thing that, not just the New Thought movement, but traditional religious paradigms too, aren't really coming to terms with is that if we don't evolve our language, it will be obsolete. And one of the people that I think is talking about this most effectively right now is the Dalai Lama. I mean, he has said, very explicitly, if we do not transcend religion and establish what he calls a global secular ethic, forget it. Because inherent in religious paradigms is righteousness and a kind of digging one's heels in. And the other thing that's interesting is that it is really only in the Western world that we draw the distinction between the secular and spiritual. In the Eastern world, there is not this need to call out, this is spiritual. There is a profound knowing that all of life is inherently spiritual. We don't need to keep calling something spiritual. And so when I hear the Dalai Lama say a global secular ethic, in the Western world, we'll hear that like a threat to our spirituality. I don't hear it like that at all. I hear it as what he goes on to say is an education of the heart. And if we get so attached to language that we can't evolve and appeal to a broader contingent of people, then we have to look at ourselves and go, what is happening here? Because to your point, this is a great liberation philosophy. It is a freedom teaching. And we could ask ourselves, do you think that more freedom is needed in the human experience? I mean, I think there's lots of evidence of that. And so I think like we have a responsibility to continue to ask, like the elders of this movement, to join with us to, one of our community members is on, and we had a joke last night. Lola, don't say that out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. This right here is a marketing conversation. That's all it is.
Yeah.
The principles are changeless.
Tell it. Yes.
This is just about marketing and communications.
Yeah.
And so as I have worked to shift Bodhi into sort of a more innovative paradigm, people can get scared, like, oh, she's taking our language from us. Oh, she's taking our language from us. And it's like, yeah, but what if the essence of it never can be lost? Right. Let's not get attached to words.
So, okay, I'm like chomping at the bit. Okay, then we got comments. Wait, let me get some of these comments so that you didn't hit a nerve. You didn't hit a nerve, girl. All right, Malala says maybe the younger generation doesn't feel the necessity for continuance because of the view that it's all one. Okay, and then Kanisha says for the coming generations, if it's still too churchy, they are uninterested. All right.
Yeah.
Now, so here, Ray says also too, I wonder if a person has to have certain lifetime experiences before they can actually hear what true spirituality has to say. Thus, people tend to be older before the interest is there. Okay, so I certainly have believed that to a certain extent, meaning that you have to get past trying to satisfy mama and daddy before you can say, this is what I am. This is what I'm studying, right? This is who I am, and this is what's important to me. But I think that it depends on what you grow up in. And I love that you said that you were in a spiritually curious household, because when I was 5, my mom was taking me to transcendental meditation sessions. And when she got certified, I got certified in TM at 5. Now, I forgot all of that and had to relearn it in my 30s. But hey, but it was also my mom that introduced me to Tony Robbins and Les Brown. And when I went to Up Church, my mom knew that Della had been ordained by Johnny Coleman. Like, she knew who she was. And so this path that I'm on because of things that I heard my mom say, and hearing my mom be hypercritical about the church, and just at a time where it felt radical, just quit going to church. Like, y'all can keep that. So like, I teach English, I teach rhetoric. I can look at those words and tell you that what they say on the page is not what he's saying in the from the platform. So that alone just resonated and revved up my soul. But in terms of marketing, because I love having that conversation, and I think if we don't have that conversation, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And the thing is that everything has fruit. A strawberry bush is not successful if there are no strawberries on the bush. Apple trees are not successful. You can't even call it an apple tree. If the apple tree grows and no apples come out, it's only an apple tree in potential. So the idea that we have these spiritual communities and that they are, I got some background noise here, that we have these spiritual communities and that they are, I think that's you, Sherri, I'm going to use you, that we have these spiritual communities and that they're not growing, that's a problem, people.
Well, it's actually, it's like what you started with, right? Like, if something's not growing, it's dying. And we have to be honest with ourselves and say, if something is not growing, let me take radical responsibility and say, what is going on over here?
Yeah.
Because the problem is not the teachings, but the problem is the mindset that's unwilling to evolve and then wants to resist the state of culture and society. Yes. Like, I went this morning at 7:00 to room 70 women, I would guess primarily between the ages of 25 and 35, and it was called Body Worship.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like something, it's music that you would hear Saturday night at the club at 7 o'clock in the morning, and these women feeling themselves. And then they did a book signing with this young millennium named Hannah Dorfman, and she wrote a book called Do You Feel Good? And it's like, I sat there and I'm like, this is their church.
Right.
What do they need church for? I mean, I have an answer to that, but from their perspective.
I do too.
Yeah.
And it's the conversation that we're having at Up Church, which is this conversation that I came to the planet holding something, containing something that I was packed up with, a gift, a talent, that if I don't do the work to release it, then I am doing a disservice to all of humankind. And the only way to get it out into expression is to be in a community where that is supported, allowed, and encouraged. And it's kind of, there's seed, like a seed. The seed has potential, but the seed can't become until it's in the right environment. So an apple seed in the wrong soil does not become an apple tree. Orange seed in the wrong soil does not become an orange tree. And so many people have been walking around seeds, carrying gifts and talents inside of them and not able to release them. And the thing is that releasing your gift is an absolutely spiritual experience. And I do not believe that you will get there by means of the world, because the world will never satisfy. There's a spiritual need, and you can never satisfy a spiritual need by physical means. That's just it's not even how it works. You satisfy spiritual needs spiritually, you satisfy physical needs physically. And so one of the challenges with the groups like that, or with this human potential movement that's happening right now, because that's the big thing, neuroscience, all the discoveries of the brain that everybody is all excited about, it still traces physical creation to a physical source.
But here's the challenge. Like, the onus is on us, though, to find a way to translate the language of these teachings, which, by the way, can be very dense. And please let me say this as respectfully as possible. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you followed Marianne Williamson's run for President of the United States, but if you watched her announcement, her kickoff evening, and deep spiritual truths that she was talking about. I mean, the stuff that we all gather here this evening to discuss. But I'm sorry, the vast majority of this country is like, what is this woman talking about? She sounds crazy. Mm. And so we have to then take responsibility for doing a better job to articulate what it is we're trying to say, mm-hmm. because otherwise it's like, I'm watching her and I'm thinking, does she think that a family of 6 in the middle of Iowa who's lost manufacturing is interested in her spiritual musings? Mm-hmm. I mean, that is something crazy right there.
Right. Tone deaf.
Yeah, and that's the little bit, like, we might have the greatest teachings in the world, but if we can't figure out a way to communicate them effectively such that they truly do make a difference in people's lives, then what good is it? And just like you said, people want to know how to apply this to their life, because if your life is not getting better, then forget about it.
So I want to ask you a question, because you said I have an answer to that question, meaning why us versus, I'd love for you to answer that, please.
Yeah. Well, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be speaking at TEDx Chicago about this spring, but yoga studios, wonderful, powerful, beautiful. Social clubs, wonderful, powerful, beautiful. But none of these outlets, the gym, none of them are designed to provide a true net in times of existential crises. So when you are faced with diagnoses, when you are faced with divorce, when you have those dark nights of the soul, what is the gym going to do for you? And so I think like to have, I don't even care what we call it. Call it a spiritual community, call it a center for consciousness, call it whatever you want. But there are people that have devoted their lives to being wisdom keepers of ancient wisdom traditions, universal principles that people are needing and may not even know they need in times of great challenge. You know, sure, when we're riding high, can we also leverage these tools? Absolutely. But most people I know got to a New Thought community because they were at a major crossroads in their life.
Right.
And so that's what isn't provided in a gym or a yoga spot or, you know, and so that's what we're chewing on at Bodhi is like, how do we be a place that really serves and supports people when they need it most? And I don't care if they ever come on Sunday.
That's powerful. That's powerful. I love that. And you're right. What we offer, you're not going to find at the meetup. You know, you're not going to find at the book club. You're not going to find at the gym. You're going to actually have to walk through the doors. But now we do use the term church. You're going to have to come through those doors and get what we got. Something else that you just said about service. And because you have a corporate background, I know that this will resonate with you. If it doesn't serve, it doesn't sell. There's not one thing that you have spent your money on ever that didn't bring you something that you thought would be a good result. Now, it might have turned into a bad result when you got it, right? but you didn't shell out the dollars thinking that, oh, this is not going to work out. If there was any doubt in your mind, it was like, yep, nope, I'm not doing it. It just wasn't worth it. And maybe one of the things that we are struggling with is how do we serve people?
Yeah, that's it.
And that our churches have been places of wisdom, but not necessarily places of service.
I think that that's right. I think that that's right. And I will just say, I have to keep a close eye on myself about that because, you know, I love the performance aspect of what I get to do. I mean, I love to speak.
Girl, yes.
I mean, I love the music. I'm a former vocalist, you know. I am a
karaoke queen.
But it occurred to me, I was thinking about this last night, like, may you not forget what we are really here for. We are here to love and serve human beings.
Yeah.
And, you know, performance is fun and, you know, Insta story is fun. I mean, I love social media. And, you know, I have seen some of the most beautifully adorned, appointed people walk in to Bodhi's doors and their lives were falling apart. And if I hadn't gone a little deeper, I would never have known that because it all looked good on the outside.
Yeah.
You know? And what I'm aware of is like people are really dealing with stuff out here. Yeah. Whether it's, you know, like I said, a diagnosis or a divorce, or it's just the grind of media, the grind of politics, the grind of Jussie Smollett, like whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like people are just like, you can grow weary, and communities that can create respite and rejuvenation and restoration and remembering of your true and holy nature, that's not something that happens in other spots. I mean, I think sacred spaces are really, really important. The question is, how can we create them so that they meet people where they are?
Yeah. So I want to use that as the conversation for our breakout rooms, because I do want to use my breakout rooms. I figured out how to use this, so I need to use my technology. So so we're gonna go in the breakout rooms for, I can set a timer for like 7 to 10 minutes, and what we're obviously is where Spirit needed us to go. We need a new mental equivalent for new thoughts. We need a new mental equivalent for new thoughts. How do we take this message and reach, Shaquisha on the corner, or Ray Ray, or whomever this next generation is that's coming? What are the pathways for them to find, for our spiritual centers to serve those communities? So does it make sense, guys? What are the things that we need to do to be of greater service? And so somebody in each group needs to be the recorder, and then you need to designate a speaker, and it won't be me or Lola because we've been talking. It'll be somebody else in whatever group we're in. That'll be the designated speaker, but I want somebody to be the recorder so that we can share this information. All right.
I also just want to point out this comment that says, I think we may also want to be sure that our sacred doesn't become superiority. I think that is such a good comment.
Yes.
That is so wise right there.
Yes. All right. Let me, all right. This is not a breakout room. I'm going to do 2 rooms, and it'll be 14 people in each room. Maybe I'll do 3 rooms. 9 to 10 participants. Okay, so your responsibility. So this is going to automatically put us in rooms. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to manually do it. It's going to automatically put us in the rooms. And what you are exploring for the next 10 minutes, and I'll set my timer, is we need a new paradigm for new thought. We need a new paradigm for new thought. And I want you to designate someone to come back and be the speaker, and they're going to share what came out of the group, and share like your top 3 points, because you may come up with more than 3. Okay, we're going to create the room. Okay, great. I'm making sure Lola and I are not in this. I think we're not. Okay, great. I'm going to open the room. All right. Oh, I think, and so it looks like I invited you to join. Am I in a room already?
It's asking me to join breakout room 1.
Got it. So then you click join everywhere that it should give you a prompt. And
you want me to do that?
Yeah. Okay. Breakout rooms in progress. So everybody needs to. Okay, I gotta join. How do I join? Oh, okay. Breakout room 2. There I am. Okay. Hi, breakout. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey. So good.
Right.
Cool. All right. So let's get this gallery view going. So please unmute yourselves and just be mindful of your background noise. Constance.
That's not okay, babe. Oop, let me move. I'm unmuted.
Okay. All right. Everybody's unmuted. Okay. So.
Kanisha, please finish that comment.
I was saying, I was just really speaking for myself and connecting to the young preacher's daughter growing up in church who swore that as soon as she got to UCLA, she was not going. So, and I'm still connected to that, which assists me in how I convey my spirituality and me learning new thought, et cetera, to my own millennials. I have millennials now, and I have Gen X. So me staying connected to how I felt, and there's still a little bit of it too. There's still a little tiny bit of that, rebellious little girl to where like, oh, well, wait a minute, that's too churchy. I'm not doing that. So, not the teachings per se, but just my own unfamiliarity. And then, so what does that mean? ultimately that means let me make sure that what I'm living when I go to a church service, when I'm, enthralled in the teachings and learning and or even worship, can I exemplify what I learn even now on the Bible Hangout? Can I exemplify that in my house? After we hang up, do I live that? Can my kids see that in me? Otherwise, it's just the same old rhetoric in a different dress. So that's what I mean by that, is to make sure how do I live, how do I teach sacred without coming off judgmental, without coming off that I'm superior, because replacing religion with spiritual, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But there can still be that air of, something, right? So that's what I was coming from. Is like, let's make sure that might be one of the things, is to make sure that we haven't just put on a different dress with the same body in it, or pants or whatever. So.
Got it. Anybody else on just, I'll take the notes, but I'm going to give them to somebody else to get back.
Hi, Sherri.
Hey.
Yeah. It's funny because I was giving this a lot of thought this morning after I read Masando's post on Facebook. I think you saw it too. And I was like, yeah, we do need a new paradigm. How do we do that? But it's interesting that now sitting on this hangout, a couple of things popped into my mind. And one thing I know that organizations will sometimes do is utilize what I'll call their star power. In other words, whatever celebrities they have that are part of their organization.
Go ahead.
Whatever celebrities that they have that are part of their organization, they elicit these celebrities to say, hey, help us to get the word out about who we are and what it is that we're all about. So that's one thing. I know that may not play in Walla Walla, Washington. So the other thing is, and I thought about this especially with regards to Upchurch, but any organization can do this, have more events outside of the quote unquote church building and in the community, where people have an opportunity to show up and meet people and get information, and they don't have to walk into those doors, so to speak, to find out what's going on.
I like that. Got it. Okay. So don't make them come to the mountain. Take the mountain to them.
There you go.
Got it. Well,
sometimes, at least more often than not, because even taking Jesus into account, how often do we know, rather, based on what we know so far, did he really go to the synagogue like that? Or is even Christianity, is what we're taught, and the whole basis of it is the people that really learned about him, followed him, et cetera, didn't go into the synagogue walls or doors to hear him. He was preaching behind the pulpit, from what I've learned. So is it possible to bring, what did you say? Bring the mountain to Muhammad? What I mean? Yeah.
I love that. I love that idea. I love that for a few reasons. One, it's that okay, this is related to dating. So I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues, and we were talking about just being a minister and this concept of dating as a minister. And he said, listen, he wasn't saying this to me from his interest, but just the experience. He was saying, listen, don't make somebody have to break in your house to take you out. And sometimes I feel like we are taking that approach with church. You gotta break up in this church in order to learn what it is that we're about, in order to get this information. And so I appreciate it. That's really powerful. Anything else that anybody has? Keisha or Jack, one of y'all gonna be the speakers. I think that's a powerful suggestion. Anything else? What's the new paradigm, the new mental equivalent we need to carry? What else can we do to be of service? Yes, go ahead.
I think teaching people principles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we are more than just, we're threefold, you know, and not just always dealing with the human aspect of it, but getting them in touch with their spiritual selves and just teaching them principle, you know, with the, what they are familiar with, what you think about, you bring about, or what is that saying? You reap what you sow.
Mm-hmm.
So just getting them to change their little mindset to the degree that, you know, the more positive I am about myself and my world and learning to love themselves, that there will be some kind of effect. Again, I think that's that mental equivalent coming in and teaching them from that perspective. I mean, I work within the 12-step programs. And the first time I ever heard the 12 steps, I was like, oh my God, we all could use these principles, because in that setting, they teach you to take the focus off of other people and put it on yourself. So in what way can I learn to improve myself? And in doing that, I not only improve myself, but my world, and then the people around me kind of shift also. So teaching people principle, just, you know, from a principle-based life, and not so much from religion or spirituality, but understanding we live in a spiritual world governed by spiritual laws, and just understanding what some of those spiritual laws are.
You know what, Sherri, something else came to my mind.
Yes.
At one point in our teaching, probably about 50 years ago, so I'm not that old, but anyway, so I've heard.
Right.
You know, teaching things like success and prosperity were very popular, and it drew in a lot of people. Now we've gotten away from that to an extent, because it had gotten kind of it was not always the best way to teach people principles. So I think we've gotten away from that a little bit, but I don't think it's necessarily something that we should abandon, because it is still something that people have a desire for prosperity, for success, for living their best life. And maybe we should, as the saying goes, maybe we should lead with that. And then let people know that you truly can rise to your best self, live a good life, and be spiritual.
I'm typing as you guys are talking. I love that. Okay.
I have one more before you.
Yes, go ahead.
Before you continue, and just I know one of the things that I really love about you and Reverend Sherri in particular is the fact that you are relatable. Like, these are real life. Like, you know, I gave you and Reverend Sherri nicknames because you are relatable, and you're not. When I see you, you're not like, let me hurry up and put my robe on and do, you know, bless you, my child. You're not that. And another example in particular is, first, we're social media friends, right? And you did a post. You were, I think you did a girls' night out with some of your girlfriends or somebody, and you were just talking about it. And you know, it was a relatable thing. I was able to see my senior minister having fun. It was dinner. It was, you know, not putting you on blast or anything like that, but you were chilling, had a little, you know, it was wine going around the table. The girlfriends were having fun, and I'm like, that is the marriage of the humanity and the divinity right there. And that's what that meant. Reverend Sherri, when the two of you were installed, and Reverend Sherri's sorors came. When your sorors come and they support you, it's like, yes, that's real stuff. Your sorors, and you doing your thing, and everybody got their little calls and whatnot. And yet the sorors can come and represent inside of the church building. Like, that's relatable. That's the marriage between humanity and divinity, which I think is what Jesus was trying to show us.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we can do that to people, it's like, yeah, I'm real. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. But we're also a church family. We're this, we're that. We're having this bowling night. Come on, enjoy it. We're still church family, but we're still people that know or don't know how to bowl. I might get a strike. I might get a gutter ball. And yet I understand spiritual principles.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Let me send this. All right. Let me end the breakout session. Okay. I'm gonna close all the rooms. Return to main session. I'm gonna unmute me. Are we back? I know that ended abruptly. I should have, if I had, maybe, yes. Okay. Just can I please stop making that noise? God bless him. All right. All right. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to choose their designated person from group 1 and group 2, and I was in group 2. So I'm gonna pick Jack as our speaker. Who's the speaker from group 1?
Andrea.
Okay, where's Andrea?
Wait, were we group 1?
Yeah, you were group 1.
Yes, we are group 1.
Yeah. Andrea, where you at, Andrea? I'm missing her. Did we lose her? Oh no.
No, she's here.
I'm unmuted.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Andrea.
Hey.
This is Andrea from Inner Life Ministries. Did I get the name right?
No, it's Andrea that's been your student for a long time.
No. I know, but you guys have a new ministry.
I do. It's Ease of Spirit.
Ease of Spirit. Yeah, Ease of Spirit Ministries. Okay, go ahead. Okay, yeah. Now I needed to give a shout out for your new ministry. Yay!
So.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, talk about what we were discussing.
Mm-hmm.
We were really discussing how we're going to reach the young people with this message and how important it is for them. And it seems as though we get caught up on that language. So one of the things that Reverend Lola was saying, can we give up the name God? Can we let that go? And I said, well, that's a struggle for me as well. I've been working on it.
And wait, I feel the need to jump in here.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying we should get rid of it. I'm just saying, would we be willing to try on, like, what fears come up when we consider, right. Because otherwise it becomes like a real attachment.
And it is. And so one of the things that I was saying is that my 26-year-old daughter, she doesn't really use God as much anymore. She uses the word universe. And Reverend Lola was saying, try on the word life. And notice it when you say, do you feel that breath of life moving through you? And that's God moving through you. But you don't have to necessarily say that word, because a lot of the young people they feel like it's all religiosity. And that it's, it's just not resonating with them. And so pretty much that's what we were talking about.
Got it.
And we also dived into the idea that there is nothing new under the sun, that the struggles that people go through and have been going through has been going on for ever and ever and ever.
Right.
And I put a resource in the chat box, which is a podcast called The Liturgists. And the most recent episode is called Buddhist One. And I cannot recommend it enough.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Perfect. Thank you. Kanisha says, if we surrender the word, meaning the word God, do we still think lightning is going to strike, or that we might go to hell a little bit? How are we being blasphemous?
Kanisha, where do you live? I need you in Chicago.
And remember what Reverend Johnny used to say. I don't know if everybody knows, but she used to talk about, you can call God anything. You could call God Allah. It could be universal mind. You could call God peanut butter, and it wouldn't change that it is God.
Right. Powerful. Group 2, where's Jack? Jack is okay, great. We're ready for you.
Now, you said you were going to send the notes, and I don't have it. So.
Okay. All right. Let me do that right then. Select all.
I will start with what I have.
I'm gonna email you as we're talking. Okay.
So anyway, now you want me to multitask, huh?
I know. Yeah.
I just came here to learn, and you got me working.
You should have it now.
So anyway, okay, here we go. A couple of things that came up was it's important, we felt that it was important to consider teaching these sacred principles without being judgmental, which is so important. I mean, that has driven so many people away from churches, so we all know that. Take a lot of notes.
I did.
So sometimes using, if it's appropriate, to use what I call star power, or use the celebrities that are in our midst to help to get the word out about what it is that we're doing and who we are. Also, we talked about having more events outside of the church building, because sometimes people just don't want to step foot in the church, but they'll certainly come to an event at a hotel or community center or whatever the case may be,
bowling.
Or bowling. Yes, thank you, my dear. Or and get to know us and what we're all about.
Get some shirts. Go bowling.
Someone mentioned that, Jesus. We don't hear about Jesus being in the synagogue all that much, not nearly as much as we hear about Jesus being out, meeting with the people. So, let's see. Equivalent. Okay, so I'll go back to my notes. And also being real people. Someone mentioned an event that Sherri and Sherri were at, and they were just hanging out. It was a girls' night out, and they were laughing and talking and just being real. And I get the same feeling at Upchurch too. When I see the two of you, it's like they're just ordinary people. They're not trying to ride by with bodyguards and all of this stuff. They're just ordinary folks. So
if y'all see me with a bodyguard, we in trouble. Okay. that means you should get one too.
I had to get some bodyguards because I was saying some stuff and people were going bananas. And I was like, look, I'm not trying to go out like that.
Right.
We also considering leading off our conversations or marketing with talking about prosperity and success, because those things don't go out of style. That's important to every generation, no matter what their background is. And that can be attractive to people. And then they find out, oh yeah, and I can be spiritual too and still have success and still have prosperity and still have the black on black Range Rover. But the one thing I wanted to say, Sherri, that you mentioned, the question that you asked earlier, and it was a profound question, are we going to let this die out on our watch? And the answer to that question is, it cannot die out as long as it is God's plan for this work to continue, for this message to continue to expand. It matters not what we do or don't do. It is going to flourish and blossom and expand if the rocks have to cry out. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you. Who do we have from group 3? Who's coming to us from group 3? You may want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, we didn't designate anyone. We get a chance to do that, but I guess I'll speak on that. Some things that came out was Ray. He mentioned that sometimes it takes a traumatic experience to come to this type of teaching. I guess when you just don't find the comfort you want, you seek something else out. We also were speaking.
And this is John speaking.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Because I didn't have you. I was trying to spotlight you, but I didn't have a video. But okay, go ahead.
And also we were speaking on the older generation. It is sometimes the older generation, they are set in their ways, so it's really no turning them around. But we was kind of focused on how can we get the younger people to understand and get into the new thought principles. But it's a twofold thing. Like I put in the comments earlier, so much information now these young people are getting into, and this is a consciousness movement. But they are turned off by the word Bible. They're turned off by the word church because they understand that some of those characters in the Bible are not flesh and blood people who walk the earth. So they say, well, that's a lie, and they don't want to get into nothing else. So they don't even get a chance to hear a metaphysical explanation for that. But then on the flip side of the coin is someone kind of alluded to this earlier. I'm a firm believer in when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I don't think it's in it to go force or go looking for people to go out and get people to understand this. I just think that when someone is ready, it's like a magnet. Everybody, I guarantee, if everybody told their story of how they got to the new thought, they're going to say, I was fed up with this wasn't working, I was looking for this, and I ran into this person, or I heard this message, or some way you got drawn to that because you was ready for it. And I think that's the best way, when people are already open and ready to be receptive.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you for that. It's funny, you remind me of something that we learned this weekend. Reverend Dr. Darrell Pulley came in to speak at a church, and as part of our session, he had everybody tell their story of how they ended up at a church. And what you got was this sense of this, everybody had this circuitous path by which they landed at a church. So one person was one of 33 people that got invited to church that one weekend. But then she was the only person that showed up, and she's been there 14 years. Another person was part of a visiting music ministry, and she had been reading Catherine Ponder's book, Independence, before she got to church or for that visit. And when she got in our bathroom, we had other like affirmations and things lying around. And so she saw the things that she was studying that were being presented by Up Church. And so she decided to basically, I guess, shift her membership and become a part of Up Church. But everybody had this path that they were on. And it really helped you see that when people end up at a church, they're already in a process. And so your invitation to them is just part of a process that was already happening before you ever made the invitation. So that just made me think of that.
Sherri, before you go on, this is Brenda.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to interject because I think it's very important. Johnny used to always say at the end of the service, when she would bring the young people in from the, well, it wasn't Sunday school, but from the other section, she would say, here comes Johnny's babies. And that's the piece that I want everybody to not go away thinking that all young people have to come in, because some young people like Jordan, he's growing up in it. He will already have it. And that's how it was so easy for me to deal with my daughter, because when she was born, I was in New Thought. She doesn't know anything else. She doesn't know the old ways, the Baptist. She only knows. So, she says, Father, Mother, God. She believes that you can have it because that's what she heard. She heard Johnny say that. She heard Barbara King say that. She got that every single day. That's what Reverend Kev, he's a Johnny baby.
Absolutely.
So there are some Johnny babies that are out there, and they interact with their buddies also. So there's some that we have to bring in, but there's some that are already there.
Thank you.
Well, and Sherri, you have a 5-year-old. I have a 21-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So we got 5.
Yeah. Between the 5 of them, we're going to keep this thing going. Oh, I think this was such a powerful discussion. Thank you guys for lending your time to this. Reverend Lola, thank you. Oh, I hug you all the way from LA. I can't even visit from LA because we have this ridiculous cold going on. It snowed in LA today.
Well, it's about time. Just kidding.
It was too much.
Weather is different now.
It is. Thank you so much, Reverend Lola, for just being a part of the Bible Hangout. Thank you. I told you, we said we open the spirit, wherever spirit takes us, that's where we're going. So we had a plan, but we went somewhere different, and I'm so glad that we did, because I think that we shared some good stuff. I know stuff that we're going to incorporate at a church. Hello bowling night, hello events outside of the church, right? Don't make them, don't make them have to break into the church to get what we've got. So taking that message out, that really landed with me, and also just sharing with people in a way that they can receive it and meeting them at the point of their need. You're right. A lot of people show up on our doorsteps because they're hurt from some experience, and they need someone who can understand them and not diminish them. So I'm just grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you too.
Tonight. At some point, we're gonna work out a date. I'm coming to Chicago.
Come on.
With Bodie Spiritual Center. I cannot wait. And
you'll fall in love with the snow. You won't even want to go back.
That's not gonna happen. But I also want to do something. I'm just throwing out the seeds, because now this is a brother from another mother, is KRS-One.
Oh, I did a talk I compared him and Emma Curtis Hopkins. I did a comparative Sunday message on KRS-One and Emma Curtis Hopkins.
Girl, okay. So I'm just putting it out there that there is something in the hip hop world, and we got to pull that together.
Yeah. Do you have his book, The Gospel of Hip Hop?
I don't have that.
Get it. It's literally like it's a Bible. Oh. It's such a beautiful book, The Gospel of Hip Hop.
Okay, all right. I'm just putting it out there that we don't, the two of us, and I know he's got a few other like New Thought fans. We're gonna figure that one out.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being a part of tonight. This was such a blessing. Next week we will have Pastor Greg Stanford from Celebration Spiritual Center, and we will go into part 2 of the mental equivalent, which is about the thinking and the feeling, and how to drum up that feeling that Reverend Lola talked about in the beginning, how to feel something deeply in your being, such that it comes out in your experience. Thank you so much for tonight. Have a great evening, and I'll post the recording once we finish. All right. God bless everybody.
Many blessings.
Thank you.